I'ma need a little water for the road. Mind spinning underneath my fro. Realizing it don't matter what you know, but it matters what happens to your soul. Been afraid of my story, what it showed. What'd happen if it ever got told? Black boy had to switch them codes. Don't belong in the place he goes. But me dreaming up a planet, he can hear his own voice. But the people want inform, he don't hear all that noise. On this planet, no police, no paranoia for the boys. Up above, he's the creator. Running point, he could breathe a little better when releasing all the pressure. When he see the sun, he bless up. Keep going, that's a lesson. Breathe a little deeper in the mirror, I repeat it. The panic ain't retreating with my heart fast beating. Whoa, whoa, yeah, plotting ain't no joke here. Full throttle in the fourth gear. I be mobbing with my foe, yeah. Unless I'm not and I just post, yeah. I catch a dream, I catch a dream. I be living through the death I see. 311, say it 2 times. 311, say it. I'ma need a little water for the road. Mind spinning underneath my fro. Realizing it don't matter what you know, but it matters what happened to your soul. Been afraid of my story, what it showed. What'd happen if it ever got told? Black boy had to switch them codes. Don't belong in that place he goes. Can't afford to not record. Trying to get my budget looking right. Team been growing, do it different. That was good advice. I got these plans, take it higher. We should book a flight. Fire in my eyes, dream catcher with a hook and line. I got a brown skin, smarty, artsy, shorty on my arm. She the bomb, thank God, and she look divine. That guava shine, they like, tell me what it is. We don't care about your change, we gonna live, but it get harder and harder to do your thing. The more that we're able to see, the harder it gets on the jungle on planes, the more that we need to lay seed. The farther you go on in spite of the rain, the farther that God can speak. The father and mother of all that I am, they taught me to pray before I eat. Hey, I catch a dream, I catch a dream. I be living through the death I see. 311, say it 2 times. Yeah, 311, say it. I'ma need a little water for the road. Mind spinning underneath my fro. Realizing it don't matter what you know, but it matters what happened to your soul. I catch a dream, I catch a dream. I've been living through the death I see. 311, say it 2 times. Hey, 311, say it. I'ma need a little water for the road. Mind spinning underneath my fro. Realizing it don't matter what you know, but it matters what happened to your soul. Been afraid of my story, what it showed. What'd happen if it ever got told? Black boy had to switch them codes. Don't belong in the place he go. I catch a dream, I catch a dream. I've been living through the death I see. 311, say it 2 times. 311, say it. I'ma need a little water for the road. Mind spinning underneath my fro. Realizing it don't matter what you know, but it matters what happened to your soul. Yeah. Realizing it don't matter what you know, but it matters what happened to your soul. Been afraid of my story, what it shows. Black boy had to switch them codes.
You have been listening to the sounds of J.P. Reynolds and his eclectic peace and power band, bringing both peace and power to the jam. The session is live. The studio is B-side. And I am your host, Queen GodIs. Happy to introduce you to J.P. Please tell us a little bit about where you are from and who is rocking with you tonight.
Word. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. Grew up in Mount Vernon, New York.
Money earning Mount
Money
Vernon.
earning, you know.
Yes.
Currently reside in Harlem. And,
You currently reside in
Currently
Harlem.
reside uptown in Harlem.
You see Brooklynites, he said that real fast.
Nah, I live in Harlem.
Okay,
I'll say it slow.
all right. We're gonna talk about what legit makes your relationship with Brooklyn like official for you to be in our studio tonight,
doubt.
which we're happy
Absolutely.
to have you,
I'm
but
honored.
we do need to investigate. So let's segue from Harlem. Okay, Harlem. So who's rocking with you tonight?
No doubt. So tonight I got my bassist, my music director, Kriston Oates. He's from Mount Vernon, New York as well.
Hey, Chris.
My oldest band member.
Oh,
Really
he looks
dope
like
dude.
the youngest though.
He's the youngest in the group. Are you the youngest? I think he's the youngest, but he's the oldest person who's been rocking
Got
with
it.
me. So he's amazing. It's crazy the way he's been able to make the music go. We got on the drums over here, my man JR,
Hey,
Mackenzie,
JR.
no doubt on the drums.
JP and JR, y'all got the letters on lock.
A lot of letters, all the J's, all the J's. And then we got on guitar back here, we got Sydney Antoine.
Hey, Sydney.
Super dope, crazy licks, you'll hear him.
Okay.
And then on the keys we got my man Duvain Fats Wilby.
Duvain. Facts.
Fats.
Got it.
Yeah. No domino, but Fats.
Got it.
Yeah.
No domino.
Yeah,
Give it up for them one more time, please. Peace and Power Band.
No doubt.
Let me ask y'all a question. So I'm just curious a little bit how y'all met. I'm imagining that it was like in church somewhere everybody was like falling asleep on various pews throughout the church. Is that right?
Wow,
Did
that's
I get
crazy.
It? No?
A little bit. I met Kriston in the church.
Okay.
I did a program called Freedom School in Mount Vernon. I was a servant leader intern. Kriston was a student at the time, which is wild.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not a student, but he was one of the students in the spot. So it wasn't church. And then when I started rocking with a live band, Kriston was in that group as well as JR. And then, you know, when I asked Kriston to be my MD, he pulled in these other amazing players back here, Sydney and Fats. And actually, funny story about Fats, we actually had a similar like musical like person behind our music journey. So at my church growing up, I had Derek James was a minister of music at my church. Okay. And Derek James was a teacher of Duvain in New Rochelle. And we didn't know each other at the time, but here we are. You know, some odd years later, and we rocking out.
Well, divinity and spirituality are such big themes in your work, and so it makes sense that that is a big theme of what makes this come together and gels. I just want to acknowledge this properly first and foremost. It is a big deal when you not only find musicians who are excited about what you're bringing to the table creatively, but who want to actually take that journey with you. Most of the artists on this stage, as many of you may know, play with so many different musicians, you know, they rotate, but this is the Peace and Power Band. So if we ever go see JP Reynolds at any stage, this is who we're gonna see playing with you.
Absolutely, you'll see this group. I mean, there's some more folks in our group, depending on what the situation is. We got a whole orchestra at times, but you'll see these folks. Okay. These are the folks you'll see every time.
Well, we just heard Dreamcatcher. That was the first song that we listened to, and Dreamcatcher is off of the album which was released in 2016. Is that correct?
It wasn't. I just released it as a single in February.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the album, when did?
The album did come out in 2016.
And the album is called Guavamatic Space Dream.
Yes.
Guavamatic. Everybody say it with me. Guavamatic. Good. I want y'all to say that because we're going to be saying it multiple times throughout the evening. And for those of you who are wondering at home, hold on tight. We're going to come back to that. But let's talk really quickly about the name, and then we'll go into the next song. JP Reynolds. It sounds pretty straightforward enough, but there actually is a special story behind your name. And then I want to talk about how that kind of evolved into using the term peace and power as part of your group name.
Word, yeah. JP stands for Jeremiah Prophet. So my parents named me Jeremiah. The story goes that, well, first of all, I should back up a little bit because my parents weren't able to have children. They were barren for 5 years. And, you know, when they were able to conceive, the name that they landed on for my middle name was Jeremiah. My first name was actually after my father, which is Rodney. But Jeremiah is my middle name. They wanted a J name for the middle name. It came to my mother in a dream that they got to name me Jeremiah. Okay. And then during my birth, it was a lot of duress. My mother was in labor for 36 hours. The choir director of my mom's choir from her church came in, allowed my grandmothers to come in, pray over all of us. I was supposed to be born brain dead. The doctors had said during that delivery process that not enough oxygen was getting to my brain, so you know they were gonna have to do a C-section, and I may come out brain dead. But they came and prayed over us. I'm not brain dead. You know, to God be the glory on that one. And yeah, here I am.
And so peace and power is the message? Is that how this becomes?
Peace and power is the message. I mean, I started saying peace and power when I was like a teenager. That's when I had an elementary understanding of like Martin Luther King's peace, Malcolm X's power. You put them together, it's
the greatest thing in the world, greatest thing the world can conceive of.
Well, speaking of the greatest thing in the world and conception, let's give a shout out to Mama Guava for being the original dream catcher that helped you get your name here, and that gelled all the peace and power together. So wherever you are, Mama Guava, we're going to say hello to you, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about what the guava actually means. Give it up one more time for JP Reynolds and the Peace and Power Band. The next song is called Zilla Told Me.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, let's get it.
Yeah. This feel good, feel that groove. Hey. Check. Just trying to be a light in a world so dark. What's the brother to do? They call themselves the alright, but we know that's just a farce. Undercover and smooth, but I don't smother the groove. You gotta let it breathe. No matter what they tell us, we know we got propellers. Our strength is getting better, believe. Check. One time for the immigrants and Fugees. I do music cause the lady from the Fugees moved me to write movies on loose leaf. 2 degrees, now I kick it like I'm Bruce Lee. Usually I gotta move with the soul. And truthfully, I see the roof about to blow. A big bad wolf started huffing and puffing. Now everybody thought he was bluffing, but he wasn't. There's something in the water, keep your eyes up. Spirit moving and the temperature gon' rise up. Who you with? Who be shining through you? I got Ella Baker, Harriet and Shaka Zulu. And they be crawling on my clavicle. And they be stomping on my sternum, proper heart moves radical. We dealing with some cartoon animals, but they got power, get your harpoon antied up. Just trying to be a light in a world so dark. Hey, what's the brother to do? They call themselves the alright, but we know that's just a farce. Undercover and smooth, but I don't smother the groove. You gotta let it breathe. No matter what they tell us, we know we got propellers. Our strength is getting better, believe. Let's rock out. Hey. Feel that. Feel that. Just trying to be a light in a world so dark. What's the brother to do? They call themselves the alright, but we know that's just a farce. They're undercover and smooth, but I don't smother the groove.
That was Zilla Told Me. Hey, give it up.
Yeah.
We are listening to selections from the Guavamatic Space Dream album. We heard Dreamcatcher, and then we just heard Zilla Told Me. Who is Zilla, and what did they tell you?
Zilla's my ace boon. Zilla's my art director. Zilla's a person who's like an early adopter of the vision. He's a creator of Peace and Power Planet with me. And Zilla's a confidence, booster. He's one of the people on the squad who's just there. He got it. He understands everything.
Is Zilla in the building?
Zilla's in the building.
Zilla's in the building. All right, give it up for Zilla. Yes.
My man Zilla's in the building. Yeah.
No relation to Godzilla, the other Zilla.
He has an interesting story about his name and creation instead of destruction.
Okay.
Zilla is related to Dilla as well, who had a very important part of his process.
Let's take a quick moment of silence on Dilla. All right. Speaking of relation, a big theme, another theme that is a big part of what you're doing is family, because not only did your band, your sound gel in a way that families or groups that have been identified as familial come about, people rocking with you from day one and taking the journey with you. But the audience actually is probably 85% of people who are related to you in some way. We mentioned Mama Guava, who is the inspiration behind your birth name. And then now we have Papa Guava, who's in the audience as well. So we want to give a shout out to Papa Guava. We also got First Lady Guava, who's in the audience. She don't know that I know Naomi Lorraine is also in the audience. Your wife. Your wife is here, actress and writer. I know. Listen, I do my job well. You're welcome. I don't mention this haphazardly or to be all in the business, but I do feel like the message of family is really important. And for those who are watching at home, who are looking at hip hop, but then hearing words like spirituality and faith and religion and like Christianity, like whatever, all of the things that are part of your journey and don't necessarily agree or feel like the two worlds go together, you are a walking, living, breathing musical testimony of how these worlds actually do intersect, spirituality, religion, in some cases, and hip hop. And your family is a testament to that. So you went from not supposed to be here or not supposed to be functional, but the fact that you are here, and his brain absolutely works. And here's an example. Not only are you a musician who has committed to release one song a month for the next year, which is a lot, but you are also a graduate of Yale undergrad and grad school.
Yes.
You had an undergrad degree in African American Studies and a graduate degree in Divinity. And so my question is for you. You're not mic'd, Papa Guava, so don't actually feel compelled to answer out loud. I just want to see your facial expression. When your son comes home to you and Mama Guava, which we'll talk about that name in a minute, after graduation, both degrees, and he says, I know what I want to be now. I want to be a rapper. Just give me the look that was on your face when you realized that this was going to happen.
It was pleasant.
Pleasant, a pleasant look.
Yeah.
So we really want to give a shout out to family. So his father, for those who can't hear, is saying that he wanted him to fulfill his passion. And speaking of passion, guava happens to be one of the most passionate fruits that there are.
This is true.
Let's talk about groups underrated are very adept acronym.
Yes,
guava.
groups undercounted.
Tell us about it.
Groups undercounted arise very adept. Yeah, I mean, we're called to rise, and it's interesting to see how people in the history of this world have been, people who've known oppression have also known freedom the greatest. We've known how to rise in circumstances that seem like something we shouldn't be able to rise out of, and it's a call to rise. It's a call to find that within us, within our ancestors, within our spiritualities, within our communities, to rise above, the circumstances that are in front of us, and to really go for passion, right? Go for passion, find our purpose, and figure out how to move in this world where we're being who we're called to be. Okay,
so let me say that again because I think I actually said it a little bit off. So it's groups undercounted,
yes,
arise very adept.
Correct.
Acronym for guava.
Correct.
What was the first moment where you graduated school, you kind of did your whole education thing, and then you were like, all right, I'm freed up. I'll put the student loans on hold a little bit. Enough to buy some music equipment, and Sally Mae, please don't ignore everything that you're seeing here. You're gonna get your money. And then, what was the moment where the guava, it came into your life? Were you eating it? Were you listening to some music while you were eating? Like, what happened that you were like, okay, this is the concept that I want to springboard off of?
I feel like it should be more of a profound story, but it's not. Like, I was literally in a car with some of my friends in New Haven, Connecticut, and I was just like, I think I'm gonna just start saying guava. Like, I literally, like, the word dropped on my lap, and I was like, I'm gonna start saying guava. I'm gonna just start saying guava. At that point, I didn't have any acronym, no story behind it, nothing like that. I was like, it's a dope word. I don't even know where I seen it at that point. I was like, it's a dope word. It's cool to say. So I'm gonna just start saying it, and then I gave it this whole
spin.
I gave it this
spiel.
whole thing, yeah.
And so after 365 days of saying guava for absolutely no reason and every reason, the album was born?
Exactly. Well, something like that, right? Because I mean, I was in studios and like I have an ad lib like guava, and they're like, you're saying guava, right?
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just kind of stuck. People would be like, oh, guava. Like, it's a thing that people, like, I get text messages now, like twice a week at least, with people sending me guava products.
Shout out to Yale University for their impact on your use of vocabulary. I'm sure that they're like, I feel like we've had a hand in the usage of this word.
It's true.
So speaking of, the album is called Guava-matic Space Dream.
Yes.
Tell us really briefly about how the concept of guava squeezed itself
I see what you did.
into, you see what I did? Okay, into the album, the process, the songs that are on it, and then tell us what's the next song that we're gonna hear.
Yeah, so Guava-matic Space Dream, I mean, I think of it as a conversation with my unnamed ancestors and my unborn children. And in a lot of ways, that's who I get strength from to rise, right? It's a divine process, it's a spiritual process from times past, from times coming, while also kind of being in the moment and trying to be a recipient and be a vessel for those powers and energies. And that's kind of like the circumference of that story. So it's a story, it's a story, it's something that has existed in my imagination space,
right.
that I'm grateful to have been able to actually express it. and find people who believe in it and rock with it and who can make cover arts for the stuff and write press releases. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah. And you don't know too many people who be like, ew, guava. Like, that's just not something people say. You know what I mean?
It's great.
And not to mention that fruit is a perfect metaphor for a lot of things, especially for what you seem to be wanting to build and share as a message in your music. And you are the fruit of your parents, the fruit of their labor to even just bring you into the world. Speaking of it telling a story, the next song is by one of your great influences and also one of the master storytellers and activists of all time, Harry Belafonte. Give it up for JP Reynolds and the Peace and Power Band.
Black. My people screaming like, what's going on? Bloody streets don't push me, I'm barely holding on. Now it's time for me to fly, I'ma take it. This got that making of a rebel feel. Lifting up my fist don't make a difference, let the wreckage build. Killing off your system, sit with scripts on my director's bill. Peace and power rep until we're victors. I rep the veal, villains learn your lessons here. Weapons will draw, but your weapons wield flawed. Vaudeville, be a chopper, your weapons never prosper. Monster, brute, I despise your biased eyes. Tragedy too common, I swear death advises lies. Ha, what's going on, what's going on? Marvin gone, but I sing the same song. There's something deep inside us that it counts for why we're strong. They tried to bury us, but we are seized, they got it wrong. What's going on? Bloody streets don't push me, I'm barely holding on. Now it's time for me to fly, I'ma take it to the sky, bring that power back. Tried to steal my soul from it. Another thing's coming, bring that power back. Now we busting through the ceiling. Can you dig it? Got me feeling like I'm Harry Belafonte, Pauline Roby with my story punches throwing at my dome. I be rolling. I got fire in my bones. I can't hold it. Plus I'm really about this life, so trust me, this ain't just recording. But I know how they can shut on my light, shade on my light. No, I'm not having that. So now I'm on a journey, we're driving. I'm taking my flight in no moment of passages. Feelings will sink no limits, so can you imagine what status my vantages? Got us a size of my hope when I'm breaking the law. Can you please help me manage it? Young, gifted, and black, that weigh a ton. Nina gone, but I sing the same song. There's something deep inside us that it counts for why we're strong. They tried to bury us, we are seized, they got it wrong. What's going on? Bloody streets don't push me, I'm barely holding on. Now it's time for me to fly, I'ma take it to the sky. We ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. Nah, say we ain't going nowhere. To bring that power back. You tried to steal my soul from me. Another thing's coming, bring that power back. Bring that power back. Hey, hey, say bring that power back. That power back. We need our power back. Bring that power back. We need that power back. We want our power back. Hey, yeah. You never told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe you brought me this far so you can leave me. Bring that power back. Bring that power back. You never told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe you brought me this far so you can leave me. Bring that power back. Bring that power back.
Bring that power back. Bring that power back. Yes, we're listening to JP Reynolds and the Peace and Power Band. Speaking of peace and power, it's two of the most biggest messages, I think, of the person who this song is about, dedicated to Harry Belafonte. Tell us how that came about.
I gotta catch my breath.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's like, now Harry Belafonte is a huge influence, just in terms of how he infused his voice of activism within his artistry. You know, he was obviously a hugely talented individual, did multiple things, but then he could speak to the issues of his time. I think he remains an influence for a lot of artists who also have a consciousness to what's going on.
Yeah, he is, and not only is he an influence, but he's a swift kick in the booty for a lot of artists who kind of forget that it's possible to do both, to rock out and to also inspire and to deliver a message.
Yeah.
Harry Belafonte and hip hop in particular. Let's segue into hip hop. Harry Belafonte. Okay, so I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. That's what happens when there's so much like juicy swag on the set.
There's a lot of swag up here. There's a lot of guava
So
juice
let us
dripping.
know what we need to do to fix it.
What I need
Oh,
to do?
okay.
I gotta
All right,
move
so
my
what we're
mic.
gonna do is, the guava worked its magic. It wants more guava on the stage. We're gonna go into the next song. Let's go into the next song. We'll come back with the conversation. Give it up for JP Reynolds and the Peace and Power Band.
Ready, ready, ready. Yeah. Woo. It sounds so good, don't you agree? Yeah, it sounds real good. Yeah. Yeah. Check. It's feeling like 1992 again. Mount Vernon in the building, coming true with it. Thunder, vision falling like flurries, trying to have the best summers. Wonder where the fire went, trust me, the best coming. Steady salute the homies, steady salute the fam. I'll be pushing deeper, it's the back of the van. It's the knocking on lockers, quick to rock and raise your hands. Is it if you try to knock me down, you lost, cause I'ma stand. Steady praying for wisdom, steady leaning on faith. Steady hearing the pain, steady killing them can'ts. It's the other folks can be scared of your power, but you can't. I fall back on my people when energy looking faint. Say, bam, bam. Coming on my journey, yeah, I'm free now. Never quit from learning, I've been empty, but I'm free now. Thankful for my story, I've been slave, but I'm free now. Focused on purpose, and I'm tearing tyranny down, yeah. Ready for whatever you throw at me. Hey, let the system say it no to me. Fire, I ride for my village, I ride for my tribe to the sunset. Get this, hey, ready, aim, fire, rise, hey, ready, aim, fire, rise, hey, ready, aim, fire, rise, ready, aim, fire. Bullet holes in my soul from the fear. Stitch them closed and I grow from the fear. Switching flows, I suppose I could steer. O's round my foes, but I chose do it here to a mission that I'm on. You wishing I went wrong, but my back is attached to a lash that lets me freely jump. Check the transport, I deliver frigid bars, but I ain't in no truck. Turn that jingle off. I'm in the booth with my Jesus piece. You can see the frost and feel the fire at the same time. My ribbons in the sky, ribbons in the sky. Can you feel my love is my reply? Black ops in the wilderness of rapping, I'm a spy. If you want some left instead of death, then I'm your guy. Probably think I lost my pebbles, but the devil is a lie. You ain't supposed to be alive. Get his kids down in the gutter, ignite a fire, inspired to see happy. I'm with colors changed again, ready for whatever you throw at me. Hey, let the sisters say it no to me. Fire, I ride for my village, I ride for my tribe to the sunset. Get this, hey, ready, aim, fire, rise, hey, ready, aim, fire, rise, hey, ready, aim, fire, it's a vibe, ready, aim, fire. I am climbing, defying with a definition. Rebel with the cause, starting the devil's kitchen. Where they cook oppression, embellish it with the hellish isms and relish it. Ignorant, irrelevant business. Yeah. Tell your story, young man, you ain't the same. Tell him the names that were stolen in this land. Tell him the story, redacted from his story, it's a sham. Undistractedly react to our redactions with a plan. Shooting back with all our actions, never slacking, not a chance. God got my back, I call that chiropractic managers. Chains falling, metal to concrete. Rose petals in concrete, leather pedal meets my feet. I'm fatigued, tire marks, howling hot up in the street. Not a reeds, not a beat, from a lot of bodies to beat. Be resolute in my teeth, be hollering about police. Color green with my speech, model pattern complete. Ready for whatever you throw at me. Hey, let the system say it no to me. Fire, I ride for my village, I ride for my tribe to the sunset. Get us, hey, ready, hey, fire, rise, hey, ready, hey, fire, rise, hey, ready, hey, fire, it's a vibe, ready, hey, fire, peace and power. For whatever you throw at me.
sunset, get this ready, aim, fire, right, ready, aim, fire, right, ready, aim, fire, right, ready, aim, fire, right.
For those of you who are just tuning in, this is B-Side, and we are all the way live, and you are getting unplugged as it can get. Technical difficulties and all, and it is still all good. And it is the hip-hop way to keep going, am I right?
Absolutely.
Speaking of hip-hop, we're going to pick up the conversation. We're talking about Harry Belafonte, which the previous song was named after Harry Belafonte, and we're talking about Harry Belafonte's relationship not only to activism and storytelling and making sure that the current and future generations know their history and the legacy that he's passing on. But he's been very vocal and instrumental in the conversation around hip hop and what's possible with hip hop, especially with some of the bigger names. So in the heat of some recent injustices and issues that we are all in our own way working to deal with and or eradicate, Harry Belafonte made some very specific statements to people like Jay-Z, Beyonce, because he felt like they were not necessarily using their platform to do enough. Some people felt like that criticism was harsh because in their own way, everybody does feel like they're doing what they can or what they know to do, and not every artist is a facilitator, educator, or activist. You know, they may be great at their craft, but not necessarily great as spokespeople or leaders.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have seen a shift.
Yep.
We have seen that shift. I think
sure
that
have.
people kind of took the baton and the swift kick in the pants and it's like, all right, if there are ways that we can do more. And then there's a legion of artists that are not as big names as these people who have from jump taken on that charge.
Mm-hmm.
So you come out of grad school,
Mm-hmm.
divinity school,
Mm-hmm.
and you segue into many things, but most prevalent is the hip hop career.
Mm-hmm.
And from jump, you decided that you wanted to do it this way. Tell us why.
I mean, the reason I love rap. I love hip hop. I love the culture. I love music. So it's like really in me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm passionate about the craft and the crafts, the long, rich tradition of black art makers, of black music makers. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Number two, I mean, honestly, like strategically, like there's so much influence that artists have.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because some people, we say, well, maybe this is a strategy. Maybe they're, you know, pushing all of the questionable stuff, all the stuff that kind of gets you popular attention, you know, because you're going to flip the script and then say, but I really want to teach you all this.
Yeah.
What is your strategy?
To put one foot in front of the other every day
Uh-huh.
and be as try to hold myself accountable with the people around me, right? Like my wife, my people in my band, Zilla, my pops, right? Like my mom. These are people who I think have an understanding of who I am, and I think I've strategically tried to put people around me who would hold me accountable.
Okay, so accountability is one, and then
Yeah.
you have a couple of songs, namely one is called Mirror Mirror, which we won't hear today, which is about male accountability, those who identify as male accountability in terms of the conversation around abuse, sexual violence, domestic abuse, issues with inequality amongst women, and really taking the Me Too movement, which is age old, shout out to Tarana Burke, but it's a conversation that's been going on for a very long time, silenced in many ways, but has a resurgence now and taken that as a self-reflection. So has that always been the case? When you first started rhyming, did you feel like you had a relationship with integrity and accountability from the start, or was that something that you evolved into having more of?
I don't know. I think I was trying to say something the whole time. I mean, I think I've always had something to say. I think that's just who I am, maybe, right? I mean, I think in life, I think I'm a person who says stuff that I think, and I think that comes out in my music. So I don't know if I originally planned it for it to be so strategic. I mean, I do know that, like, originally I was like, yo, everybody's got earbuds. Imagine if everybody was listening to you on their earbuds. Imagine the influence, right? Like, it's not the same as some of the other things, some of the other careers that have presented themselves to me. And this thing, one, for which I'm very passionate, but two, yeah, I don't know if the strategy's grown in me, but I think I've always had something to say. I've always wanted to say something.
Well, speaking of things that you wanted to say, you said on a song called Jenga, when you were talking about it, you wrote, our society is set up like a game of Jenga. Marinate on that for a second. Let's continue. Nobody truly wins. The game is predicated upon destruction and loss. Good strategy is to thwart the attempts of your neighbor. The whole point is to leave holes in the structure. The more unstable you can make the foundation without actually being cited for knocking things over, the better you are. And in the end, it all falls down anyway, and nobody wins.
Oh, man. I'm like, dang, I wrote that? That's crazy.
You did write that. And I think that that's where we see like the Yale thesis writer, the dissertation spilling over into the songwriter, which is not an easy thing to do. There's been many artists before you who had layered things that they want to say. Sometimes it was just too much for some brains, or it was too fast to grasp all the words. But you have really, from song to song, and it varies from song to song, but like I can hear the influences of the things that you've read, the ideas that you've kind of put together through your education, and then now the tool, the craft that you have of hip hop, which allows us to say a lot of different things if we choose. Tell us really quickly about that concept of Jenga and it all falling down anyway and nobody winning.
Yeah. One thing I've learned, first shout out to Lauryn Hill, the All Falls Down thing just came up. She's an influence for me.
Yeah.
But two, I don't know, I mean, the more I look at it, the more things I see, the more curtains that get pulled back and you see what's going on backstage. You realize that, you know, when it comes to race, when it comes to class, when it comes to gender, sexuality, when it comes to all of these things that cause major, you know, points of division in our society, we think we can win, and then you get to a spot and it's like, actually, nah, right? I mean, case in point, Obama, Trump, right? This is an exact representation of that. You know, you go from one thing, it's like, oh my God, victory, we got victory. Somehow Obama represented victory for a lot of us. And then you turn around and say, actually, nah, that wasn't it. The game was about to fall down. And we thought we was gonna win the game, but all the while people was poking holes in that mug until it was our turn and we pulled it and it all came down. And I don't know, I don't know, it's bugged out. It's a little bit of a, you know, I don't know, it's not, I try not to be negative about it, but to me it's truthful. There's some truth to it. Yeah.
Well, shout out to Harry Belafonte and Lauryn Hill, and sometimes things falling down so that we can build them back up. Tell us really quickly, what is your favorite fruit?
Oh, guava.
Guava. What's your next favorite fruit?
Strawberry. Yeah, I see. I was like, oh, you about to go somewhere.
We're coming full circle with this. Hold on, we have some things brewing in this conversation. Give it up for JP Reynolds, the Peace and Power band, and the next song is called Strawberry.
Oh man, that's great. Was that you who was crossing my mind? Light was red, so I instead walked to you. I stepped out of time. That you get so big. And the fact that you get hit it on. Such a flawless withdrawal of laws. This encounter recharges my heart. Your mama and dad, we have called upon God. Forgot that the rapper, no drama, no harm. As long as it wasn't like mine. But it looks like you're breathing just fine. I can imagine my grandmama did this with me. Till I jump on the feet till the sight was complete. Covered by prayers some deep. Don't worry, you'll see. They gon' try to feed inside and touch you. And tell you what is possible. And death to try to mock you. But you got life up in your nostrils. A dream for you is you'll be unconfined. Pray the Lord, your soul design. Cross my heart and I hope to fly back to these skies before your time. Like la 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 la. 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 Tell me how I'm gonna live. Tell me who I'm gonna be. Show me love and protection. Tell me the stories of my family. Tell me how I'm gonna look. Tell me, what did you see? Show me love and affection. Tell me I'm matter that I'm unique. Was that you who was crossing my mind? That red lights appearing like no stopping for us. It's a sign that you get so big.
Matter of fact, how'd you get here at all? This encounter is an almond thought, but I'm looking at you, there you are. Your body is probably a target, and I tried to stop it, I promise it. Your mama and I, we've been through this ourselves, we know just what it's like to be done. No matter when things fall apart, let nobody dishearten them spark. I can imagine my granddaddy did this with me, so I jump in his feet, the disciples complete. Held up our prayers from deep. Don't worry, you'll see. It's gonna open up, pouring love, all the toughest to you, we can see. They're gonna try to nude you and call you. You play by ghost rules, so work on your post moves. And send on with the ghost rules. Treat you as unconfined. Pray the Lord, your soul desire. Cross my heart and I hope to die before you. I've never seen 25 like la 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 la. La 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 la. Tell me how I'm gonna live. Tell me who I'm gonna be. Show me love and protection. Tell me I'm mad at I need. Tell me how I'm gonna look. Tell me what do you see? Show me love and protection. Tell me I'm mad at I need. Hey, la 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 la. La 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 la. Was that you who's crossing my mind? That red light is green now. It's only a matter of time. I ran into you and the purple is blue. The hues and views sublime. Your eyes and your shoulders are mine. No but vanishing, fading in the lights. Was that you who was crossing my mind?
That was called Strawberry from the Guavamatic Space Dream album, continuing the theme of fruit and seed. In the previous song, you said they tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds, which is based on a Mexican proverb.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about strawberry, and which is the only fruit with the seeds on the outside.
Yes.
And this song functions as a letter to your unborn
Yes.
child,
Yes.
particularly son.
Son and daughter.
It can
The first
either
verse
way.
is trying to be,
Okay, cool. Let's do this real quick. Let's
have.
have a look. I'm sorry.
Yeah, one fault. I was saying Venus hot and taught you. That's the reference to daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But it
Yeah.
also can apply to men.
It
too.
can, absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Speaking of children, your dad's here in the audience. If you could sum up, what has been his greatest message to you?
Trust God, never quit.
Trust God and never quit.
Yes.
And if you could sum up in one sentence what your greatest message you hope to deliver to your child, what would that be?
Be unconfined.
So trust God, never quit, and be unconfined. So for those of you at home who are chasing your dreams of being an artist and like making some sacrifices, and one of which may be sacrificing raising your children, or having a message for today's children, maybe you can borrow JP's and his dad's.
Word. Yeah.
That is a big privilege. To be able to not have only been educated and to be able to take your education and apply it to your passion, this thing that you love, but to have a relationship with. How do you stay grounded, and how do you be mindful of the privileges that you have using an art form in which many participants don't necessarily have the same privilege?
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with privilege all the time, which is a paradox because I'm also a black man in this world, right?
Talk about it.
No, it's real, right?
We don't hear that conversation enough, right?
Yeah.
It's usually one extreme or the other. But what does it mean to be a black man in 21st century America facing all of the bombardment of oppressions and issues on a daily basis, but to also be a black man who has privilege that you can acknowledge and that you use in the way that you do?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of paranoia, there's a lot of what my therapist calls ontological guilt, right? When you're being in a certain way, sometimes you may feel survivor's guilt or survivor's remorse. I'm from Mount Vernon, you know, there's people I grew up with, you know, they didn't do what I did, and they didn't have the circumstances or the means or the resources to have that privilege. So it's a struggle, and it's something I'm in a group chat with my homies who from Yonkers, Harlem, and Inkster, Michigan, and Oakland, who all are in a similar position where we're black men in this world, and we're trying to figure out, you know, how to use our privilege to the best of our abilities in different forms and fashions.
You also mentioned therapy, which is not a word that you hear from a lot of rappers, MCs, people in hip-hop, period.
Yeah.
What is the role of that, I want to say, choice and privilege in all of this? What role does doing therapy have in the trajectory of your career?
Yeah, it's definitely a choice, and it's definitely a privilege. One of those things that I own as a choice and a privilege, and it's one of those things where I mean, one, it helps, you know, keep me grounded a little bit, and talk to somebody who's not in this world.
Yeah.
He doesn't, you know, his understanding or perspective is coming from a different place, and I can express things that, you know, is unfair maybe to express to my wife. I can express things that I don't always want to actually express to my homeboys.
What things that you don't want to put in your music? Are there things that you keep separate from the music?
I don't know yet, actually.
You haven't made enough yet, you mean?
I don't know if, I mean, I just started going to therapy like a year and some change ago. So, I mean, there's definitely been some stuff that's overlapped. There's been some things that have been revealed in terms of what I've been putting in my music and what that meant about parts of my life. We talked a lot about overlap and overlapping worlds, and I mean, it's funny because he saw the Peace and Power logo and he was like, oh, this is exactly what we're talking about. Like these overlapping, my therapist, yeah, okay. He saw the logo on I think it was my phone. I was like, this is like exactly what we're talking about. It's like a mandorla, it's an ancient symbol that's basically a Venn diagram.
Right,
yeah. So yeah, it's just
there's a lot of layers here.
There's mad layers.
Yes, mad layers. And you know, we can't give them, well, we don't even have enough time, but I think if you enter the guavamatic world, it is a rabbit hole of a good kind. A lot of layers. You get book recommendations, you get movie recommendations, you get all the things that kind of influence you. Let's talk really, really quickly about, so the world of hip hop again, you named an influence of Lauryn Hill. A lot of times I ask people their top 5 MCs of all time, and they usually don't name a woman, and so I have to like create room for them to really think hard, because I'm like, Lauryn Hill exists, how is it possible to like completely overlook her? So you consider yourself to be a birth child of Lauryn Hill and Jimi Hendrix, which is an interesting combination. Yeah. But let's fast forward a little bit. We're in the generation of mumble rap, also meeting where people like J. Cole and then now Kendrick Lamar have achieved high recognition for lyrics, performance, production, the list goes on, and Kendrick Lamar just won the Pulitzer.
Shout out to Kendrick, baby.
So let's take that moment to let that sink in of what's possible with hip hop. Tell me your top 5 trap artists.
Oh, that was good. That was a sign. I was getting ready to I was like, Lauren, Kanye. I was about to do that thing. Dad, who are trap artists? Are you gonna help me out?
They're cheating. Yo, cheat sheet.
Gucci
you
Mane?
using the audience as a lifeline.
Gucci Mane?
Gucci
Yo,
Mane.
that's actually not an easy question to answer.
It is not.
I don't know
or
that.
Is it?
I like Ray Shrimmer. I actually like Migos a lot. I think Migos is like.
Do you?
Yeah, and I do.
You understand what Migos is saying all
Nah,
the time?
but it's not even about what they're saying. So the thing about trap artists, and I don't know that many. I do listen to trap music, right? But the thing about trap music that's interesting, because I get the mumble rap question a lot, and there's this, like really brilliant things that these artists are doing melodically, rhythmically, cadence. And I mean, if we take it to like this is a stretch, right, intellectually, but like if we talk about the Africanity of all of those things, and the transmission of like mumbling on fields to communicate with each other, to hide their language from the slaveholding class. Then
are we talking about coded language?
We talk about coded language, right?
We go. So
because
good.
there's people that can access Migos that's for them.
This is why there's room for hip hop in education, higher education, and also in the church, because we can break down some things with the form. We don't have a whole lot of time to do it today, and we want to go into the next song. But we did mention Migos as one of his top 5 trap artists of all time. We're gonna come back into another layer of this question. Give him a couple more minutes to think. Give it up for JP Reynolds, Peace and Power Band. We're gonna go into how we still have joy, which is a perfect segue coming out of talking about the Migos and trap music.
It is. It's
how
true.
do we still have joy?
Yeah. Feel that vibe, huh? Bring that soul back. Now I'm talking about. Feel that. I smile and I be laughing when my company comes. There was power in my people because he come from the lungs. We know the hills and the valleys, the seas and the streams. Though the seas in this mean, we still believe in our dreams. Yeah. We don't feel the dark because we was born in it. Melanin smother the groove and make a song in it. The breath of the ruler is in me, so I'm long-winded. Steady knocking at the door, ding dong, get it. Yeah, growing through what we going through and never settle up. Black joy being rebellious, us do cherish us. Black joy being in the belly up, where there is heavy love, and it gotta be that way. If not we gonna be there for us. We die for dice rolling in the stolen land of time. We die for dice holding in the stolen land of time. Now we rob for us told from foreign land to find the middle of a war. But just going ready for the healing power in my soul. We roll up to the finish for what the posture wanting more. The fake love for force, the big an obstacle for sure. But we know we likely eating all imposters with a full range guava. Yeah. Look at it, vibe. Hey, feel that. I smile and I be laughing when my company comes. It was power in my people cause he come from the lungs. We know the hills and the valleys, the seas and the streams and the seas and the me. Gotta breathe. Say, breathe, baby, breathe, what the nurse told me. I almost didn't make it, that's my birth story. First cries more like worship for the first glory. Now I'm a rocket like Taraji to the hearse, hold me. Hold that, but don't sacrifice the swing note. The group is something that my hips do have a thing for. We can spit it like this so we can sing slow. Bring the snare, put up a tree right where the strings go. Seems as though nobody got no schemes to choke. The life out of my folk ain't nothing we ain't seen before. So bring your rope, policies that squeeze the throats. Cause we got hope is too big for you to even throw. Even though we far away from even slopes. Degrees is cold, they don't stop our feet from leaving no. So this dance that we got, it ain't escaping nothing. It's a portal into something, can't be captured in discussion. So we rushing with no mask on. Getting our pigskin play in the past on. Hey, I smile and I be laughing when my company comes. It was power in my people cause it come from the lungs. You know the streams, see? Feel that? I smile and I be laughing when my company comes. It was power in my people cause it come from the lungs. You know the hills and the valleys, the seas and the streams, or the seas and this. Yeah. Don't it feel so good when we overcome it? We know the good cause we've had a lot of overcoming. Always wonder when I make it to a jumbotron. Well, I don't know, I'm just bigger led, so get your wonder on. What I know is I'm gonna speak life, cause I wasn't supposed to have it. But I know if I get a chance and I'ma grab it, ain't no number 45 on that. But I know it's my shorty live effect. But I know it's gotta show it better. Send to black women and listen to elders. Yeah. What I know is that I'm still alive. Yeah. What I know is that I got the light. What I know is I'm gonna let it shine. Hey, this little light of mine. Yeah, I smile and I be laughing till my company comes. It was power in my people cause we come from the lumps. We know the hills and the valleys, the seas and the streams. When the season is mean, we still believe in our dream guava. Hey, green guava. One more time. Say, I smile and I be laughing when my company comes. It was power in my people cause we come from the lungs. We know the hills and the valleys, the seas and the streams and the seas and the mean. Believe in our dreams. Green guava. Yeah. This how we still had joy. Gotta dance out a little bit and I'll talk about feel that.
Jazz, funk, soul, eclectic, a little bit of hip hop. Really quickly, what is your harshest critique of hip hop? Really quickly, one word.
One word.
I'ma
Right
help
now,
you.
so hip hop right now.
Yeah, real quick.
Soul,
And what is hip hop's harshest critique of you?
privilege.
And then we have it. You're gonna have to do the rest on your own because we are officially out of time. JP Reynolds with Peace and Power Band. There's a lot of layers here to talk about. Give him a round of applause one more time. And speaking of joy, thank you for bringing some joy. There's a lot of people who don't think that the kind of music that you do can bring people joy because it does make people think, but it is possible for us to do both. That said, committed to the vision of spreading love and providing a progressive playlist where peace and power are in heavy rotation. Thank you so much, JP Reynolds and crew, for joining us in the studio tonight, really, for raising awareness. Thank you, family, and keeping the vibes up high. That's right. And if you want to stay high on a weekly dose of peace, power, and B-side, that is, you can check out this and past episodes at youtube.com/BRIC TV and on our podcast at soundcloud.com/B-side podcast, or just come on by the studio and get your dose up close. I am your host, Queen GodIs, wishing you more musical, magical, radical realness all day, every day. Shout out to those of y'all who've been watching. We love you, Brooklyn. Till next time.
Yeah, we're gonna end the night with a little funk. And I'm talking about, feel that? my brothers in the house feeling blessed now. Turn it loud and get down with a step now. Getting loose, going through it. We're moving, we're moving, we're grooving with our hands in the air. This how we do, this how we do. Oh, my brothers, my family, my people, go do your thing. Yeah, go do your thing. Yeah, take a stroll down memory lane with me. Put on your crown, get wild, come and rain with me. Put it down for my town in the white uptown, so fly. There ain't nothing you can say to me. Hit Rick at the shop for the fresh cut. J Hales on third with the best was. P Rock and CL shot a video there. Now we rockin' with P, so we bless up. So special, so special. Car wash on my pops, that's the next move. Yeah, we tighten up the ride, looking right in the line. It's a super duper Cooper Trooper vessel. Like this barbecue sauce for the party in the yard. Get a grill, about to be on fire. Playing Earth, Wind, and Fire, dancing hard into the night. You know you gotta turn this song up high. Fireflies in the sky, food on my belly. Grown folks playing spades, the game is on the telly. Cakes and pies get sliced for our consumption. They sweat and dance it up to this beat, tell me bumping. Get on the floor and do something. Time to hack the furniture, if you need to, jump in. Jokes and laughter, folks are scattered, but don't be napping, cause we get active. My brothers in the house, feeling blessed now. Turn it loud and get down with a step now. Get loose, going through it. We're moving, we're moving, we're grooving with our hands in the air. This how we do, this how we do. Oh, my brothers, my family, my people, go do your thing. Do your thing. Ha. Or we can go back even further. To them growing up days when your crush made you nervous. Or when the song cause your kin from the south came. The accents made people take notice. Your uncle had hooch in a mason jar. Telling crazy stories but nobody would dare to say off. Ribs in the cooler, Glen Island on the grill. Quarter water, ice pop, fake goals on chill. The park with the reunion, how we do it for the cook. For the shorty, saw the sporty, I was steady on the look. Steady off the hook, running through a sprinkler. Super soaker fight, getting clothes all wrinkled up and feeling like Bad Boy 98. A love like this to the speaker break. Stone cold like a slack guy. He's a hot time, some of your bed. If I said I didn't miss it, I lied. Now let's gon' get it, gon' get it, hey, gon' get it, gon' get it, hey, gon' get it, gon' get it, hey, gon' get it. Everybody get up, gon' get it, 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 gon' get it. All my brothers in the house feeling blessed now. Turn the ladder, get down with a step now. Get loose, going through it. We're moving, we're moving, we're grooving with our hands in the air. This how we do, this how we do. All my brothers, my family, my people, go do your thing. Do your thing. Or we can stay here right now. Whole team chase dreams, we living out loud. Roadblocks and barriers can never ever bury us. Won't stop till we walking on the cloud. Craft sounds for our sons and our daughters that'll come after us so they can be proud of everything that we've done. I teamed up with Body, with God, Body, Shotty, going salmon on the tracks with a flow hard body. Gym to the hospital, spitting something ill but reveal. Get the people something they can feel, something they can heal. And time do that, about time that somebody let their rhymes do that. Cross lines like finding that shine the rap. Now the shine one man, and divine do that. Cross lines, like a line you back. Hey, hey, the song do clap. All my brothers in the house feeling blessed now. Turn the light and get down with a step now. Getting loose, going through it. We're moving, we're moving, we're grooving with our hands in the air. This how we do, this how we do. All my brothers, my family, my people, go do your thing. Do your thing. Let's party. Hey, feel that? Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. All my brothers in the house feeling blessed now. Turn the light and get down with a step now. Gonna do it, we're doing it, we're moving, we're moving, we're grooving with our hands in the air. That's how we do, this how we do. All my brothers, my family, my people, go do your thing. Go do your thing. Shout out to Queen GodIs. Shout out to the Peace and Power Band. Give it up for them one time, please. Thank you so much, BRIC TV, B-side, having us. My name is JP Reynolds. It's been an amazing evening with y'all. Thank you so much. Hey, hey, Kecia, all my flowers in the house, feeling blessed now. Turn the light and get down, hit a step now. Get loose, going through it. We're moving, we're moving, we're coming with us. We'll keep going. This how we do. Oh my God. Yeah. Warm that thing on up. J.R. McKenzie on these drums. Yeah. Cindy Antoine on the guitar. Yeah. That's on the keys. Smooth that thing on out. Smooth that thing on out. Smooth that thing on out. Yeah. I see all my brothers in the house, feeling blessed now. Turn the light and get down with a step now. Getting loose, gonna do it. We're moving, we're grooving with our hands in the air. This how we do. This how we do. All my brothers, my family, my people, go do your thing. Go do your thing. Peace and power to you. Holla at us, we out here. Yeah. Listen to here, listen to here.